Get started in a few minutes. Thank you everyone who's already here. Thank you, Jameson, for your comment. I would love to hear from anyone who's joined, and if you could just say, if you feel like it, if you just feel like saying a quick hello. I know that sometimes you like to just be quiet and sit there. Sometimes I do that too. But if you're there, yeah, say hello, and please let me know if the audio and video are okay. The quality of if you can hear me and see me all right. That would be great to know. So we're gonna get started in a few minutes. I was just looking through the book again and very excited. There's some really great information in this book. Whatever level you're at, I think it's very helpful. Explaining things and giving you exercises in some of the foundational aspects of music that help your musicianship and understanding so much. So I'm really excited to get started with you. It looks like we just have a couple people on so far, so hopefully we'll see. Might be some people joining in and out a little bit, and I know the time zones can make it a little difficult too, so hopefully we'll get a decent little audience here. I think we've got a few people. Bernie, thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for joining. Happy to have you on board. And all right, good. Thanks, Bernie. Good to hear that the quality is good. So we'll get started in a minute. Very exciting. Oh, don't want to scan ahead too far here. Just a little intro about this method book. So it's by Caruly, but the editor is Krempel, who I can't find any information on. I think he composed. I think he was a composer and a guitarist, because there are some of his pieces in this book. But this particular edition is, I think, just fantastic. So one really cool thing is it's public domain, so don't feel bad for that we're using it. It's public domain. You can get it on IMSLP, and it does take a bit of searching though. You have to sort of search around, and so the cool thing about this, I guess we're officially starting now. It's 1:00 in Australia, so let's officially start. So thank you for joining. All right, thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Bill. Great to have you all, and thanks for your comments. Please feel free to ask questions anytime, and I will try my best. I'll try my best to answer you. If I'm not in the middle of something, I'll try and check whenever I can. Oh, that's really cool, Jameson. You got your first recital, classical guitar recital on the 15th. Well, all the best for that. Yeah, fantastic. So this method book, I was just explaining a little bit. It's by Ferdinando Caruly, but this particular one was edited by this gentleman, J. Krempel, who I know absolutely nothing about. I've done a little bit of digging and couldn't find anything except that he edited this method book. So if anyone knows anything, it'll be great to hear. If you do know something, please chime in and let me know. But so this method book is really handy because most of us, I think, are probably English speakers. But if you speak, I think, German here on the left, and what's this, French perhaps in the middle here. You've got a few languages there, but handy for us to have the information in English. A lot of these method books were in Spanish, French, Italian, German. Not so many in English, so this is really handy. Bourrée in E minor. So Jameson said, you're playing Bourrée in E minor and Soars Study number 1. Fantastic pieces. Fantastic. I think Soars Study number 1 is in the key of C major, and Bourrée in E minor. So we'll talk about those keys maybe a little bit. So this the first section of this method book just talks about the rudimentary elements of music. So if you have any questions, this can be a good reference point. Tells you about the note names. It tells you a way of remembering the notes here, which is kind of neat. If you're at that level in reading, then all good. So all right, confirmation, yes, German and French. That's what I thought. So has if you have any questions about what kind of a rhythm you're seeing in a piece that you're working on, you can look here, and it gives you a table. Tells you about triplets and sextuplets as well. Tells you about rests in quite a bit of detail. Tells you about signs for transposition, so sharps, flats, and keys. So we've got all the keys here lined up for you, nice and neat. In the three different ways: A moll, the German way; La mineur, the French way; and then English A minor and C major up the top there, and all the keys, major and major at the top, minor at the bottom, key signature there. So I'm just going through this nice and quick here. So he talks about how you can distinguish between major and minor by means of the third. So something I teach a lot. If someone who's learning harmony, it's all about that third above the root note. So a major key requires a major third, and a minor key requires a minor third. He's got an example of a C major chord here, the E there on the fourth string, creating a major third, so major chord, and then he's got this D minor chord, which is kind of hard to play. That has a minor third from D to F natural there, so that puts it into a minor key, even though it's got a B flat, so could be F major, but happens to be D minor. Then he talks a bit more about time, and here this can be quite handy if there's a piece you're playing and it's got one of these tempo words, time words here. This can be a handy little reference as well. Sometimes I even forget, I've got to remember where does andante or andantino, where does that fit in again? Exactly in the spectrum of time. So I think this is interesting because it's alphabetical. It's not slowest to fastest. So sometimes they put it slowest to fastest, but talks about some more signs, the fermata, the pause, repeat signs. He talks about some other symbols like ornament symbols, which he does go into much more detail later on. Here are some expressive indications here. I like how he says to produce variety in playing, the following signs and Italian words are used, because it is important to have some variety in our playing. So sometimes these words will be written in, and sometimes there might be implied things that we as musicians have to read between the lines a little bit and add these types of things to our playing. And this is quite a list here. So I'll let you go through. I don't want to go through this in too much detail, otherwise it'll take many, many hours. Let's check any questions. Okay, yeah, all good. All right, so next part here, he talks about a description of the guitar. Pretty cool. And then if you need to know what a guitar is, so holding the guitar, I'll just let you read all of this. Fingering, we'll just quickly go through this because this is a bit interesting. Different countries, different regions, different periods of time used different systems of notating usually right hand fingerings. Left hand's pretty much always been, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and 0. But for the right hand, we have A, B, C for the, A is the I finger, B for the middle, and C for the A finger, and sort of a asterisk for the thumb. For the left hand, this is quite interesting here because you find this again and again. We've got open string 0, and then these are all pretty typical, but what on earth is this doing here? Plus equals thumb for the left hand. So in the 1800s and maybe even before in the 17 and 1800s, guitarists were using their thumb like steel string players and electric players do. They were using their thumb like this. So it's a bit hard to do on a modern guitar because of the dimensions of the width of the neck. So, but it's just an interesting fact. So if you see that plus sign and you think, what's that doing there? It means to play it with your thumb. But I don't actually recommend you do that. You'll have to refinger things a little bit. Excuse me. It comes. The more and more method books and pieces I see, the more and more I find this symbol from the 17 and 1800s. It's really interesting that they're using their thumb. Okay, and then he talks about the positioning. So position of meaning what position we're playing in, and this is governed. It's another thing I teach a lot on here. The first finger governs what position we're in, and that's a super important part of reading music. To know what position you're in. String players are like just beasts at that. That's how they learn their fretboard in different positions, and that's how we need to learn the fretboard too. Otherwise, it's like we know first position and then everything else is just a mess. So good to know to break it down into different positions, and he does that a little bit in this method book later on. Okay, and what have we got here on playing the strings? So just a bit of a introduction, just of a general sort of outline about what, how you play different strings and combinations of strings. So using, if you had a passage like this, thumb first and middle, P-I-M, or A-B-C in their symbol method here. And then same for this too. So if you've got a passage like that, you do that P-I-M. Typically, right? It's just like, it's sort of a general thing about, generally if you have something like that, this is the fingering you use. This information can come really in handy at times when you might be unsure, like, why is this P-I-M instead of I-M-A? Well, P might give you a bit more accent on that first beat. That might be the reason why it's there. So a few examples there, and then different ways of playing chords. So you, here we go with this notation here: thumb, index, middle. Alright, so that's thumb, index, middle. And I don't think you can see my right hand in the video, unfortunately, but hopefully it's clear enough. I really mostly want you to see the left hand for when we get into the real meat of the method book. So anyway, I'm probably prolonging this too a bit much. So the barre, all right, and then we get to a fingerboard chart. Now this is a really cool one. This is an interesting one because if you zoom in, if you're reading this method book on an electric device, it's just pretty neat. You don't see this too often. He's actually giving you what the note looks like in notation. So it doesn't just say F or Fa or anything like that. It's showing you this note, what it looks like in notation. So it's a really good way to connect, make a connection between notation and the fretboard. So there's lots of different fretboard charts out there with different, they have different emphasis on things. So and then this one just it also gives you chromatically the notes going up, the strings there from the lowest to the highest note. All right, so that's a handy little chart too. All right, so hopefully those references come in handy for you. At some point, if you have any questions about something a symbol or the type of rhythm or what fingering to use or where to play a note or what this word means or what tempo, how fast a certain tempo word is. Hopefully most of it is there for you. I know we have the internet now, but something nice about having it in one place. So we start off with these basic technical exercises here. So now we're getting right into the heart of the method book. So these are really worth practicing as a warm-up. I would suggest these types of exercises as a warm-up. Open strings and these different varieties of fingerings with the right hand. Really, really helpful. Something I strive to do in my practice is a good, very simple, basic warm up using open strings as well. So, you're using interesting that the fingerings he has here are quite interesting. So you've got thumb, index, index. Remember, A is it's ABC, not IMA. So thumb, index, index, and then thumb, middle, middle, and then thumb, ring, ring, thumb, AA, PAA, and then going back. Really great exercise. Well, let me get my right hand up here for you. So, a basic thing like this, you might see players do something like, lots of swing, lots of too much movement, and maybe the tone's not quite, the contact point's not quite settled, and the nails aren't smooth. So you can actually make quite a hack out of this exercise, even though it's so simple. So if you can get this exercise just pristine, pristine technique, pristine in tone, rhythmic control, and all that kind of thing, then it sets you up to succeed, I think, later on in pieces. So that's just a little spiel about this portion of the book. So yeah, have a go. Even if you're pretty advanced, playing advanced material, advanced pieces, I strongly recommend always going back to these basics. I often tell my students, I kind of like watching tennis, and Roger Federer, probably one of the